On today's episode, we start the countdown to find out what is the best Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. What is up, guys? Welcome to the What We Watch show. I am Matt, and we are so excited that you are joining us. We are going to be doing something over the next couple of days, and what that is we are going to count down the top Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. And the reason we're doing that is, I know, is that 1 week from today, Infinity War comes out. What all of this has been building to is coming out, and I cannot wait to see it. 1 week from today, we will be discussing that movie, but that naturally leads to the question that which of the films, there's over a dozen of them, I think there's 18 of them, that all come together to build up to this one movie experience. But some of them are better than others, and we are going to take a look at which ones are the best. Now, I'm also going to be doing this not only on Facebook and YouTube, but on an app called Stardust, and you can check it out right now, actually in the description down below. If you're unfamiliar with Stardust, it's kind of this really cool blend of both Snapchat and YouTube. What it does is you can record up to 30 seconds of video of your immediate reaction to different things, whether that's movies or TV shows, and you can see what other reviewers are saying. It's really cool, and you can follow me on there and get a ton of reactions to both old movies and new movies. That's typically one of the first things I do when I come out of a movie is I post my reaction on there. So if you'd love to tell me your opinion on that, go ahead and click on the description down below. And for every 10 first follows that we have, that means when you download the app, you follow me right away. We're gonna give away a $10 gift card to Fandango Movies, so then maybe you can even see Infinity War for free this weekend if we can get a few followers to sign up. So be sure to click on that link in the description below, start sharing your reaction and checking out others. Make sure you check out the Stardust app. It is so much fun. But we are going to be putting these all together. First, we're going to have this episode, which is going to go through numbers 18 through 11, and then on Wednesday, before we all go and see Infinity War, I'm going to be revealing my top 10. So, without further ado, let's dive into this and talk about number 18. Number 18 is Thor: The Dark World. Now, this one was just kind of there. I felt like this is a movie that you never really have to watch twice. The bad guy was forgettable. The plot was kind of forgettable. If you questioned even the most hardcore of Marvel Cinematic Universe junkies, they might struggle to even tell you what the movie was about. Basically, this movie existed to give us a little bit more lore into Thor and his whole universe and Asgard, and kind of just introduce an Infinity Stone. But besides that, it's pretty forgettable. His relationship with his girlfriend is forgettable, and the stakes, while seeming very high, just weren't that great. So while it's not a terrible movie with so many other great ones, Thor: The Dark World is at the bottom of my list. At number 17, we have Iron Man 2. Now, Iron Man 2 kind of falls into that same category where it just kind of happened. There's a lot of really good pieces, but it felt very much like Iron Man 1. It felt like they were just kind of trying to copy and paste what happened in Iron Man 1. Once again, another villain that didn't really challenge Iron Man too much. There was no real depth to it, but Iron Man 1 at least got out the gate exciting and starting this whole universe, while Iron Man 2 just kind of had another villain, and it was another rich guy backing the villain, and all of these sort of things just kind of ended up giving us an okay movie. Once again, not terrible, just not great. At number 16, we have Iron Man 3. Now, I may sound like I'm hating on Iron Man, and I might not be the biggest Iron Man in individual films fan, but there are two camps of people. There are people who loved what happened with the Mandarin and thought it was clever and wow, what a crazy idea. And there were people that hated it. Now, I'm not in the hated camp as much as I was. Full confession, we've talked about this in previous episodes, but I love a good villain. I feel like a good villain can make or break a movie. And while Marvel overall just across the board kind of struggles with villains. I felt like the whole Mandarin situation was, once again, you had a rich guy who was backing the thing. Like, that's basically the Iron Man plot. Is maybe it's because Tony Stark is rich and so you need a counter rich guy, but you always have some sort of rich, successful person trying to stop him. And that's the same thing. And I feel like they wasted such a good opportunity with the Mandarin. If you're familiar with villains, the Mandarin is one of his arch enemies. For me, this was sort of like if the Joker just turned out to be some hired gun that some rich guy hired to go after Batman. It just didn't mesh. I honestly almost left the movie while watching it in theaters, but I stuck it out, and after watching it a time or two again, it doesn't hurt as bad as it did the first time, and there actually is some pretty good stuff diving into the whole idea of Tony Stark and what makes him tick and what makes him actually Iron Man outside of the suit. So those are some really great qualities, but once again, there just was nothing about this film that made me want to watch it again or get excited about seeing this movie more than once. At number 15, we have The Incredible Hulk, and this one hurts deep. For anyone who knows me, The Incredible Hulk is by far my favorite Avenger, obviously, because he's the most powerful and he's the greatest of them all. But this was kind of when the MCU was still trying to gain traction, when the whole idea of this big, huge shared universe was just kind of something that was shared on message boards and talked about amongst friends, that it wasn't this big collective thing yet. And so this was probably one of the more clunky efforts. And once again, we go back to a villain problem. While Abomination is cool and a really great Hulk villain, it once again just kind of was weak. It just wasn't really there. On top of that, this is kind of a scarred version of it because, once again, Bruce Banner and the Hulk aren't even played by the same guy that we see in Avengers and in Thor Ragnarok and in Age of Ultron and all these other things. So it's kind of like this dark mark that kind of just looms over the entire movie. Ed Norton did a great job playing Bruce Banner and the Hulk, but it just kind of feels like the weird stepchild. A lot of people forget that this is even in the MCU because it's so separated from the rest of it because you didn't have that unity there yet in the universe. But overall, it's a really fun movie. I liked it a lot better than Hulk, which came out several years before it. But still, waiting on that solo Hulk movie, and because of rights and stuff, I don't think that will ever happen or won't happen for a long time. But until then, we have The Incredible Hulk, and it's a pretty good film, but when you compare it to the other ones, it just is lacking in a lot of areas. At number 14, we have Ant-Man, and this is actually kind of surprising because I had a great time at Ant-Man. Ant-Man, actually, if you were to ask me and give me this list before the MCU came out, Ant-Man probably would have been at the bottom. I probably would have even wondered, why is Ant-Man getting his own movie? But it just found a really nice groove, that it was funny and the characters were interesting and kind of had this really good dynamic and had a lot of good comedy moments while still having some heartfelt moments. But at the same time, it was Ant-Man. The tension just wasn't there that we find in the other ones. For some reason, I just can't picture Ant-Man saving the world. I mean, he stops bad guys and he, in the big scheme of things, is incredibly helpful. But I'm really interested to see later with Ant-Man and the Wasp, him kind of teaming up with someone, because I'm not sure if he could carry another full movie by himself. Really great addition to the MCU and to the Avengers, but just by himself, it was a really great movie, actually exceeded my expectations, but if I was honest, my expectations were ground floor, bottom of the barrel. So the fact that I exceeded it isn't really saying much, but I did enjoy myself. It was a fun movie, but just was not as great as I would like it to be. At number 13, we have Thor. Now, this one, I love the first little part, and I even like the whole idea of the fish out of water that we even kind of see in Captain America, with Captain America later on in the films. But I love the whole idea of this guy who is such an egotistic guy, and we see that throughout the comics, who is almost I don't want to call him dumb, but he's just so full of himself and so fish out of water that he just puts himself in really weird situations. And I do love that and I enjoy it a lot. What really hurts this film a lot is one, the side characters just really aren't that interesting. The scientists that he comes in contact with, and then the fact that like it's just kind of happening in some small middle of nowhere town. The threat level is just incredibly low. We learn a lot about Thor, we learn a lot about Asgard, we learn a lot about just the whole universe, because I believe that Thor is typically not one that was typically very well known before this movie came out. But while we learn a lot about him, and that's great for his character development and moving forward, the individual film, there was just not a lot to it. You have a egotistic, cocky guy who gets struck down and then has to learn redemption, but there just really was not a ton on the line, and it kind of just felt like a stepping stone movie. It felt like it was kind of a movie that we wanted to get to Avengers, we have to introduce Thor and his whole background and his lore, so let's make a movie about that and kind of clue everyone in, so then once we get to Avengers, we'll all be on the same page. Now, obviously, this movie introduces Loki, which is one of the highlights of all of the MCU, but at the same time, I just don't really think that this as a whole was a fantastic film. It was a really good one, very enjoyable, and a very important part of the MCU, but it felt like that's what it was. Just a part of the MCU, and by itself really can't stand up to some of the other films. At number 12, we have Captain America: The First Avenger. Now, what I do really love about this film, and what probably would put it into my top 10, is just the setting. The fact that it's not modern day, that we're going back to World War II and Nazi killing and all this sort of stuff, and Red Skull, which is a great villain, which was very underutilized, and we still don't really know what happened to him. The introduction of another Infinity Stone, and just all of these moving parts, and just the whole idea of what makes a good superhero. That's one of the great parts about Captain America: The First Avenger, is he starts off as a scrawny kid who has a lot of heart and then gets the superpowers to back up that heart. So he's not just all this muscle, but he has the heart of what we want our heroes to be. And the first part of the movie really focuses in on that. But once we kind of get more into the war and he's full on Captain America, there's just a few things that kind of fall apart. The whole crashing it into the ice, and crashing his ship into the ice to end the movie to kind of make it so we can fast forward. The whole idea of Red Skull just kind of vanishing into thin air, and that was kind of a letdown that there was no big climactic ending to what is possibly one of the best Marvel villains of all time. And he may be dead and gone forever, we just don't know. And it just kind of left a lot open because they are so far in the past that they want to leave it open to things happening in the future. So while it was really cool to go back in time and kind of see how all this started, see Tony Stark's dad kind of in action helping out Captain America, it just kind of is really, really good, really, really exciting and fun. But I just had to put it a little bit lower just because I felt like there was a lot of wasted potential in here. That the concept is cool. Let's go back in time. Let's go to World War II. Let's go in this really cool setting and look at Captain America and what makes a hero. But sometimes they just kind of fail to stick the landing. But it's still a really great film and shows us what we really want in our heroes. At number 11, we have Doctor Strange, and this one I found really exciting because it's sort of a changing of the guard. A lot of people see Doctor Strange as the new Tony Stark. A lot of theories are kind of going out there that maybe Tony Stark might be dying in this movie, Iron Man might be dying in Infinity War, and so they kind of need a new leader, and Doctor Strange kind of fits right into that. Sometimes a little bit too comfortably, where it's just kind of take one out and replace them with somebody else. But one of the great things I liked about this movie is, once again, we get to see the hero's journey of Doctor Strange building up and becoming more of the hero that we want him to be. And not only the fact that he needs to kind of heal himself, but one of the really cool things about Doctor Strange is that he kind of becomes a hero. A lot of other superheroes are either born with powers or like some sort of thing happens, and I guess he does have a tragic accident, but he almost has to train and learn to be as good as he is. Now that's really cool on several fronts, because that means he can continually get better because it's a skill that he's learning. And then also just the introduction of magic into this universe, that it's something that's a skill that's learned, it's a craft that he gets better at. And just the visuals and how they were able to make this so visually appealing, having that Inception style, dimensions folding upon dimensions thing, and then the introduction of things like time travel, which completely blow open the doors to different things that can happen inside of this universe. So it opened up a ton of potentials, and I'm really excited to see where they're going to take it. And besides that, Benedict Cumberbatch plays a fantastic Doctor Strange, and I'm really excited to see where they take the character in Infinity War and beyond. Alright, there's my 18 through 11, and make sure that you tune in this Wednesday, and we're going to count down our top 10. Now, you need to post in the comments below, what are your top 18? 18 through number 1. If you want, you can just do 8 through 11 and then wait till Wednesday for your top 10. Maybe just give me your top 5 or 10. Where was I right? Where was I wrong? Where are you thinking, why is that not in your top 10? Are you insane, Matt? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, be sure to check out Stardust. I'll be posting those reviews for all 18 in the next couple of days. So if you want to get a sneak peek, make sure you click on the link and follow me on Stardust below. That also helps out the channel a ton. So be sure to like, share, and subscribe to this video. Let me know, what are you seeing Infinity War the day of that weekend? Are you going to wait until it kind of calms down a little bit and just cover your ears and hope that nobody spoils anything for you? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for hanging out with me, guys, and thank you for stopping by the What We Watch show, and we will see you guys on Monday.